North Korea, a nation synonymous with nuclear weapons, cyber-terrorism, and authoritarianism. While it provides the US with ample reason to house military bases a short distance away from its largest geopolitical rival, China, it also provides China with a welcome degree of separation to one of the US's most important geostrategic allies, the Republic of Korea, or South Korea. To South Korea, North Korea is its most crucial existential threat, but something often overlooked is its position as a key converging interest between Japan and South Korea. So let's explore how Japan and South Korea, divided by history, have become united by North Korea. In 1910, the Empire of Japan officially annexed the Korean Peninsula, marking the end of 5 centuries of Joseon dynastic rule. It was only in 1945, when Japan was defeated by the Allied powers, that Korea was liberated. However, the nation quickly became divided due to a combination of internal instability and external entities, such as the USSR, China, the USA, and the UN. Fast forward to today, and there is a stark difference between the liberal democratic nation of South Korea and the communist dictatorship of North Korea. It doesn't take long for even the casual viewer to see that despite their shared history, cultural elements, and language, these two nations could not be more different. However, after the liberation of Korea and the founding of the Republic of Korea, Japan and South Korea shared many historical issues, stemming from Japan's colonial period. These issues include comfort women taken from the Empire of Japan's various colonies, a large number of whom were Korean, who many claim were essentially sex slaves to the military. Forced labor, as many groups within Korea, China, and other various places that were invaded by the Empire of Japan claim that the Japanese military forced Koreans and others to work as forced laborers. War guilt and the issue of which content should be put in Japanese textbooks, and territorial issues, which surrounds a small island nearly equidistant between Japan and South Korea, and acts as a highly contentious point in Japanese-South Korean relations. Interestingly enough, despite their hostile relations, many of these issues are actually shared between South Korea and North Korea. However, unlike between South Korea and Japan, there are no economic or military agreements between South Korea and North Korea, and in recent years, discussions surrounding reunification have seemed to regress. Now, for even the most anti-Japanese South Korean or the most anti-Korean Japanese, the issue of North Korea poses much more of an existential threat to their safety. In 2016, Japan and South Korea signed the General Security of Military Information Agreement, or GSOMIA, a military intelligence sharing agreement designed to monitor North Korea, particularly its missile and nuclear missile programs. This agreement essentially allows South Korea and Japan to share military information without going through a third party, which is almost always the US. As this is a major military information sharing agreement without significant involvement from the US, it seemed to mark a significant turning point for South Korean-Japanese relations, indicating increased alignment between the two nations outside of economic interests. However, in 2019, South Korea announced that it would not renew the agreement due to export restrictions placed on it by Japan, following a South Korean court order for Japanese companies to pay reparations to victims of forced labor, once again showing the prevalence of historical grievances in Japanese-South Korean relations. Except despite this dispute, the agreement survived, indicating that when it comes to security, even controversial historical grievances can be momentarily suspended. This historical factor becomes even more poignant for Japanese-South Korean relations when you consider the connotations for many South Koreans of working with what is essentially the Japanese military. So of course, there is still domestic opposition to these sorts of agreements within South Korea, but despite this, the agreement has survived. Therefore, while agreements between South Korea and Japan frequently become under significant strain, perhaps the shared threat of North Korea is enough to push them closer together. And while other factors, like shared liberal democratic values and US influence may also facilitate this cooperation, it is without question that North Korea has become an avenue for alignment between Japan and South Korea. So, will the security concerns regarding North Korea continue to act as an avenue for cooperation between Japan and South Korea? Or is it simply a pragmatic consideration without the need for further alignment? Does this alignment indicate liberal democratic peace, US influence, or increasing cultural ties? I propose that, like every issue, it is a combination of a variety of different factors. The populations of both nations seek to survive against forces they consider to be antagonistic, while also possessing significant resentment towards one another. While both nations democratized and the populations of both generally prized the democratic process, free and fair elections, and human rights, these ideas alone do not inherently remove historical grievances, but certainly facilitate some areas of cooperation. Only time will tell if this agreement will survive or if other similar agreements will be facilitated in the future. It is dependent on a multitude of factors, from North Korea's stance to the US's position, the flaring of historical tensions, and the response and tolerance of both nations to these issues. But despite being a great source of international anxiety, it is hard to deny North Korea's role as a unifying force in Japanese-South Korean relations.